Hello everyone, I hope you all had a good 2024 so far. In this video, I'll be going through what we achieved in 2023 and then what we're planning in 2024. 2023 as overall, things didn't go exactly as we planned it. There was a lot of hurdles we had to overcome. So I'd like to thank you all for being patient. Tweed Foundation attended various events in 2023 to recruit volunteers for this project. We kicked things off with the Trout Festival in Peebles, and then we did some events with the Water Organ Project, and we did a BioBlitz at Traquair. So not everyone we spoke to was interested in volunteering, but I think everyone left these events with a little bit more knowledge, understanding of the invertebrates that we get in our rivers and how pollution affects them, and then how they can pick up on poor water health in the future. So even if they didn't want to volunteer, I think that's still a really good outcome. Since the launch of Guardians of the Tweed, we've recruited more than 30 volunteers, and all of you are very eager to keep our rivers healthy and get involved or give back to your local community, which is really good to see. In 2024, new volunteers are welcome, but we won't be doing any general active recruitment because I want to get focus on getting you guys trained, getting you guys monitoring first. There may be some targeted recruitment in areas of special interest where we know there are pollution problems. That it's best to have volunteers for sites that are local to them, so you're not having to travel long distances to do the sampling. So in 2023, I was very intent on following the guidelines from the Riverfly Partnership, and those guidelines are that volunteers get trained up before they start sampling, but that really limits what you guys can do and it slows things down. So in 2024, I want to get people out and sampling with us before they get trained. So for that to happen, there needs to be a trained person present. And the people who haven't been fully trained, they won't be able to do and collect the sample or doing any of the in-river works or collecting sample, but they will be able to help sorting out the sample into different groups and then counting all the individuals up and recording the data. Finally, I'd like to touch on communication. In 2023, I mainly communicated by email, which is great, but I'd like to have a little bit more informality to it and then also get you guys talking with each other as well so we can create a little community. So I'd like to start a WhatsApp group and or a Facebook group, but this is up to you whether you'd like to join these. If you prefer just stick to email, that's totally fine, and I'll just be emailing you information directly. So on to training. In 2023, we managed to complete a theory training session and a practical training session. The theory training was held over Zoom, and we didn't have any technical hiccups with the program, so that was great. And everyone was able to communicate and ask lots of questions and things like that, so that went really well. The practical training was held at the office and was with one of our trainers, John Clayton, who used to work for SEPA. So he's got lots of experience, lots of knowledge to share with you. And the volunteers that attended, I think, really enjoyed that aspect. So they're getting a little bit more of the science, not just the how to follow the method. In 2024, I would like to get as many of you as possible through both the theory and the practical training. Hopefully, all of you before summer, but we'll just see how things go. Before the end of March, I'm hoping we'll get a new Riverfly Monitoring digital packs, which contain revision material, health and safety documents, guidance on how to report pollution events, and guidance on how to use the database. So the database last year started being updated to our new platform, the new platform Cartographer, which is a really great platform. I've used it a few times now, and it looks really nice. It looks really easy to use. It's very apparent, like if I'm wanting to go go look at the survey results. It's obvious where I need to click, that kind of thing. And they are going to be working on videos to on YouTube to show you how to use the database. They're not up yet, but I'm going to keep an eye on their YouTube channel, the Riverfly Partnership YouTube channel, and hopefully those should also be up before the end of March. But I am open to also do a little workshop if that's easier for people to learn how to use it. And that means that if you have any problems, you can ask me and we can figure out how to solve things. Now let's have a look at the data that we collected in 2023. So this is a map of all the sites, new sites that we established. So we want to try and explore the data that we collected, but we only managed to get one sample per site last year, and they were taken in different months. So naturally, throughout the year, the relative abundance of riverflies that you would find in a sample changes, and that's a natural process. In the summer, in the warm months when there's lots of food around, it's warmer, so the invertebrates' metabolism is working faster. You'll get more of them, basically. Whereas in the colder month, you won't find as many in your samples, and that's a natural, normal thing. But that means that if you only have one sample, and one is in a warm month and one is a cold month, you don't want to compare those two, because the sample taken in the summer will most likely look really good compared to the sample that was taken in the winter. So instead, to explore the data, I decided to separate out the sites by what month they were surveyed. Then we need to try and get an idea of what is normal for that site, like the context, provide context to the score that we got to tell whether or not that is a good score or a bad score. So thankfully we have what I would call historical data for the Tweed, because there are already riverfly monitoring sites in our catchment, and they are down here around Gala and Earlston. These sites are sampled by John Clayton. So what I've done is on each graph I'm comparing the site that we sampled to a median score of his surveys that were taken in the same month. So this is our first graph. The blue bar on the left is our site at our office at Drygrange on the leader water, and then the orange bar on the right is the historical Tweed score. So I took John Clayton's data, I isolated all the samples that were taken during the month of April, and then I took a median score of those scores. So a median is similar to a mean or an average, but because of the way that the John Clayton's data distributed, a median is more appropriate to use. Additionally, the ARMI score is a whole number, so there's no decimal point, whereas when you take a mean of a set of data, it can come out as a number with a decimal point. So that's the reason I chose the median. I'll include a link in the description of the video explaining more in detail about how medians are calculated, etc., if anyone wants to know more about the maths behind the graphs. So the Drygrange office scored a 12, which is a relatively high score, which is good. And we know that the leader is a productive tributary, so this isn't a surprising result. And the site itself is in a very woodland-y area, lots of trees on the banks and overhanging vegetation. So there's lots of good nutrients going into the river, providing food for the invertebrates. Now we're going to have a look at the September graph. So there was a lot of sites sampled in September, and a large portion of them were up around Peebles area. So I'm going to focus on those first, and then we'll have a look at the other ones. So our first bar is a site in the town of Eddleston, next to the bridge in the south side of town. Our next bar here, the light blue one, is on the Eddleston water and next to the swimming pool in Peebles. Our third bar is On the Eddleston Water again, but this time further up, it's Red Scar Head, which is halfway between Peebles and Eddleston Town. And then we've got this light green bar, which is Walker Burn Factory. So this one isn't on the Tweed, this is on the Walker Burn itself. And then finally, we've got a site on the Tweed next to the Peebles swimming pool. So the first four are received a score of 12, which again is relatively high, especially for September, so that's really good. And then the Peebles Pool Tweed site only scored one fewer point of a score of 11. Slightly different, but not to an extreme extent. And all were still above the historical Tweed score, which is the median for the September month. So these are the two other sites that were taken in or sampled in September. So the first one is this red one here. So this one's on the Blackadder, or tributary to the Blackadder. This one's also quite relatively high for where it was taken. It's a very small tributary, and there's a lot of arable farming around, and a lot of the site was quite slow flowing, so you wouldn't get quite as many of the stone clingers, and not quite as many as some of the caddisflies, because it's not like super fast flowing. It's not super oxygenated because it's just not fast flowing enough. But that's really good score again. And then the other site we've got is the Leet Street footbridge. So this site is in Coldstream on the Leet Water. Now the Leet Water is well known for having kind of poor productivity. We don't get a lot of fry in that water. And as you can see here, the kick sampling score is below the historical Tweed score by only 1 point, but is still below it. So it was expected to have a low score, and the Leet Water, the whole of the Leet Water is a site of interest and is somewhere where we would like to do some more sampling going forward. From the context here, I'd say that's still not a bad score, but it could potentially be better. So it's something for us to look into and to work on in the future. So finally, we now have the November graph. So our site here is the Beamerside Hut. So this is on the Beamerside Beat, which is just downstream from Leaderfoot. They sit in November, taking November. So remember, November score is more likely to be lower because of the temperature and the season itself. The historical Tweed score is 1 point above it at 7, and then the Beamerside Hut is a score of 6. So I had a look back at the individual historical surveys from John Clayton, and out of all his sites, I think the lowest score for a site in November was 6. So even though it is below the median, I would not say that's cause for concern. But again, this is just one tiny snapshot of riverfly sampling. So sampling in the future will give us a better understanding of what the baseline for this site is, and potentially catch some pollution events, because this is on the outer extremities of two points of interest. So on the Leader Water, there's been pollution incidents in the past, and downstream from Gallowfoot, there's been several different pollution reports. So this being at the kind of further downstream edge of the area will give us an idea of whether or not that pollution further upstream is affecting as far down as Beamerside. So finally, I want to talk about some updates from Bug Life and the Riverfly Partnership. So I'm in contact with Rebecca Lewis, who is the project lead for Guardians of Our Rivers, which is the project by Bug Life and is the project that our project is under. So that she's been working with the Riverfly Partnership and SEPA, and they've had meetings with SEPA, and they're there's a few things that they're trying to improve and change. So first of all, they're improving the site registration process. At the moment, there's a lot of information that you'd be gathering in the site registration that is not clear what purpose it's for. And connect to this is the setting of trigger levels for each site. Rebecca wants to add some more stuff to be collected at the site during the site registration process so that the trigger level can be more accurately set. So they are also improving the setting of the trigger levels. At the moment, the method's a bit vague and needs a bit better kind of scientific foundation to it. And finally, she's working with SEPA to improve their communication to group coordinators, and then so that I can give you all the information that you'd like to hear. They're aiming for as much transparency as possible within the confines of what they have to work with. As SEPA, often their kind of outcome that they're going for is prosecution to offending parties, and there's potential that information that they might give to us might interfere with that prosecution process. Thank you all for listening, and I'm looking forward to working with you all in 2024.